Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Your friendly neighborhood coach Pruitt here with you once again with our daily YouTube video. This video is going to cover our activities during class on Friday, January the 29th, and Monday, February the 1st. So Friday is even, Monday is odd, and you can see this is on the screen our schedule and our activities for today. So we have completed our content for unit number 4. We have been working on unit 4 since we came back from the Christmas/holiday break. We have talked about things that led up to the Civil War throughout the 1820s till about 1860. We then talked about the Civil War itself and covered the bare minimum, but the highlights of the war, the most important information. And then we've spent the last week or so talking about Reconstruction and the combining or putting back together of the United States and all the problems and issues that went with that. So today you can see our schedule is that we're going to play a short Kahoot to review. I will make sure and make this announcement at the beginning of class, but you must actually play the Kahoot and answer all of the questions to be counted as present. Obviously, if you are logging in to class, guys, and then walking away or not paying attention or not being involved in the activities, you're not participating, you're not getting the knowledge, you're not getting the content, you're not getting the activity. It's pretty much meaning you're not there, right? Logging into a Zoom does not mean that you are actually paying attention or actually participating. So we're going to start doing more things like this where I ask you guys to complete something by the end of class, and that way we can take attendance in that regard, not just logging in. But you can see we're going to do that. I'm going to go through on this video, which I will also do in class today, and cover every single Taskwork activity. Make sure that you guys know where it's at and what it is. We'll be covering each and every one of those. Not in too much depth or detail, but just reminders about that. There is no study guide for our test, but remember we have our tools and resources page where you can find the Google Slides presentation, multiple PowerPoints that we've used during class, and a direct link to the Unit 4 playlist on YouTube. So the only announcement that we need to make is just a reminder that your test is going to be on Tuesday and Wednesday. So even classes, you will take your test on Tuesday. Odd classes will take it on Wednesday, which means that on Friday is when even classes will get their exposure. I hate to give you a test your first day back of the week. It's just the way that the schedule worked out this time. But you've got an extra day to study and prepare for the test. So that was kind of mine and Mr. Burrow's rationale. Okay, so what we want to do now is go through and look at some things on our Canvas page and just remind you guys of our Taskwork activities. So as you're working, you remember what they are, what they look like. Please remember that we need these the day of the test. I think we're actually going to give you guys until Friday as like the absolute deadline, but we will not extend it over the weekend. Remember that you can send us your assignments on Remind, or you can send your assignments through email, but please do not turn them in on Canvas. I think I tried to set it up this time where they weren't listed as assignments, which means there is no possible way to turn them in on Canvas unless you message me directly with them. That is acceptable. So messaging me on Canvas, and you guys can see I have some things in my inbox, that drops it here in this inbox and I can go and check it. Just putting it onto like turning it in on Canvas, if it were an assignment, it doesn't tell me that those things have been submitted. So that's why we kind of moved away from putting assignments on Canvas. People were still putting them there, and we get it, guys, like your other classes do that, and it's, you know, everybody kind of has their own thing. But for our class specifically, you don't turn things in on Canvas. You can message me and Mr. Burrows on Canvas with your work. You can send us a remind message. You see I've got a couple here that I need to go and check, or you can send us emails. Those are plenty of ways that you can get in contact with us and share your work with us. So first thing, remember, in the U.S. History module section, in this blue section is the tools and resources. I know we've looked at this a couple of times, but I do want to remind you again, there is no study guide for unit number 4. We don't have like practice questions or anything like that, but you can certainly see here we've got a Google Slides presentation. You can use those to study. We have a direct link to the YouTube Unit 4 playlist. You can use that to go over the material if you would rather just watch some videos. We've got the guided notes for standard number 8. We have several PowerPoints. These two we use during class. These two have similar information. They present them in a different way, so there are plenty of options there. I will probably reassign the Kahoot over the weekend so you could replay it again if you wanted to, but that's going to be the way that you study. Also, you can use your Taskwork activities as study guides because they cover the information directly. So let's go and look at each and every Taskwork activity so that we can remind you what it is, what it looks like, and just make sure you know everything that needs to be submitted with your Taskwork packet, however you want to turn it in, right? You can put them all into a folder, create a zip drive, and then send it to Mr. Burrows and I. You can send us each individual assignment, which makes it a little more tedious for us to grade, but that is perfectly okay. We're happy to do it. You can send us pictures on Remind. You can turn assignments in on Remind. So whatever you guys need to do. So just a quick glance at your task worksheet just to remind you about key term assignments. So remember, for key terms, guys, you had quite a few of them, but we have taken plenty of time during class to give you all time to work on it. The first day of the unit, you had about 25 minutes. There have been several other days where we have finished 10 to 15 minutes early, and we have said, please go work on your task work. Please go work on your key terms. So all in all, you've probably had a solid hour and a half of class time that you could have been working on these words. Remember, for key terms, you have to do a definition for each word. We want the definition to be in your own words, not just copy and paste it from the internet. And then you choose something from the other box. I would myself go with Google Images. And I know it doesn't say it on this one. I forgot to do that one, but we've been doing this, enough this year. I think you guys probably remembered that. If for some reason you haven't done that yet, just remember, you can have to do 2 Google Images for each word. And so what a lot of people have done in the last unit or two, they put a word on a Google slide, they do their definition, they put 2 pictures, and that's it. So that is perfectly acceptable for you guys to do. I would actually highly encourage you to do that, but it's, again, up to you. You have choice there, okay? So we're going to go through now and look at, in the module, each of the assignments. So the very first one, in the way that they appear in the module, not the order in which we completed them, okay? Civil War amendments and resistance. You might remember that this is the activities that we did the last time that you were in class. So we had assigned you the previous class, 2 classes ago. At the end of class, you were to research independently the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, and you were supposed to use your notes in the videos to answer and fill in these categories. We started our previous class by going over the Civil War amendments and talking about those amendments directly, so this should be done. And then we went through and we discussed resistance to those amendments by Southern governments and Southern states. That was our note-taking session of our previous class. And we talked about things like the black codes, sharecropping, and then resistance for voting, the literacy test, the poll taxes, and the grandfather clause. So both of these should be done. If you hadn't done them on your own, we covered both of them in our previous class, and you could have just filled in the information. Going back to the module, next thing coming down the module was the unit number 4 timeline. You guys might remember this. We did this the very first day of content of the unit. We gave you guys plenty of time in class to work on it. We then went over the timeline at the beginning of the next class and talked about each of these events. But essentially all you had to do was create a timeline and put these events in order on that timeline. If you took your notes on the timeline, that was perfectly fine. That is not necessarily part of the assignment. We encouraged you to do that. If for some reason you haven't done the timeline, you can see here are the instructions, and there are several different ways that you can do the timeline. There are several different options there. The next thing in the module was the Missouri Compromise Organizer. We did this on the first day of content for the unit as well, so it should be done. We did it during class together as we went over and talked about the Missouri Compromise. If for some reason you have not done it yet, here's what you need to do. Don't worry about the map. We want you to find an image of the Missouri Compromise, right? So normally if you were in class, we would have a map for you to color in. We obviously can't do interactive maps with virtual learning. So your assignment was, if you were doing it by hand, we just wanted you to make sure you kind of knew where these things were. If you were doing it electronically, we wanted you guys to copy and paste an image of the Missouri Compromise into your Google Slide, Google Doc, Microsoft Word document. There were a few questions that needed to be answered, but the biggest thing that we wanted you to remember, Missouri is added as a slave state, Maine is added as a free state, and we make the 3630 line. Again, if you have very specific questions about these assignments, there are daily YouTube videos for each of the days of class. You can go search them by date or by title. So there's a video that is Missouri Compromise Timeline. You can go find that and check it out. It goes more in depth in detail. Next in line is the Venn diagram and report card. We did both of these activities in class this week as well. So we went through and we compared and contrasted presidential and radical Republican reconstruction. We were looking at the specific ways that both of these groups wanted to reconstruct the United States after the Civil War. That was just us taking notes. So if you were in class and taking notes when you needed them, you should be good to go. Sorry about that. Next thing on here was the assignment that you did at the end of that class period, or our last class period, I'm sorry. The last time we were together, we finished up Reconstruction by telling you guys we wanted you to use video clips and notes to look at the Freedmen's Bureau and assess how they did in 4 main areas: education, jobs, land, and medical aid. You were supposed to give them a letter or number grade and then give us feedback as to why you gave them that grade. So again, these were notes, should be done. This you had the last 30 to 40 minutes of class last time we were together, should be done. Going back to the module. Next in line is the primary source activity. You guys might remember that we did this end of last week, where we asked you guys to find a primary source from the Civil War. I gave you several different websites that you could use to do that. We wanted you to then find a modern example of a similar issue and explain how the two were linked. You can see here that I have given you an example. You can always go look at that. And again, if you have more specific questions about this activity, go back in the YouTube daily recordings playlist and find the video titled Primary Source Activity and the date that it occurred. It will break it down even further for you. I am just running through right now to give you kind of a general overview. We again have some creative writings and what-if scenarios. So remember that your assignment is to look at 2 of these. I gave you 4 possible choices this time, and there's no right or wrong answers. This is opinion-based, and it is using the information we had talked about, using your own creative ideas. How could history have been different if one of these things? We also gave you guys the option to choose your own. So if there was something that stuck out to you that we talked about, right? What if Lincoln had not been assassinated? That was one of the choices. What if Andrew Johnson had been impeached? You could talk about that if that was a topic that interests you. What if the South had won the Battle of Gettysburg? Not a choice in here, but you can certainly write about it. So you only have to do 2 what if scenarios. We gave you 4 options. We gave you also the option to make up your own. Very last thing in here in the module for unit number 4 is the guided notes. We completed the guided notes over the course of several days. A lot of it was us talking directly to you. Half of it or so was you guys finding information on your own. We did standard number 9A together. We talked about these things specifically. We then gave you guys time to go and look up Abraham Lincoln and the effects of these 3 documents or legal actions. We then talked about specific people from the Civil War, and then lastly, specific battles. If for some reason you don't have this filled in, you can use the Civil War PowerPoint that is in the Tools and Resources section of our Canvas page. So, to wrap it all up, guys, that was your task work. Again, if you have more specific questions about any or all of the assignments, you can go to our YouTube channel, click on the Daily Recordings Videos playlist, and then you can search for them. I'm just going to pull this up real quick so I can show you. You can just search through them, and they're listed in order of how they were uploaded. You can see, you would scroll obviously towards the end, right? Reconstruction Day 2, Beginning Reconstruction, Civil War Primary Source Activity. So they are titled based on what we did and then also dated. So you can find them hopefully pretty easily. They'll answer more of your questions. Mr. Burrows and I are obviously here for you guys anytime you need us. Send us a reminder, send us an email. We'll try to help you if you have specific questions about the assignments, need some help with studying, whatever the case may be. We are now into our 2nd semester, so first semester is officially over and done with. If you are not where your grade needed to be or wanted to be, still plenty of time to get it there. All right. We love you guys. Have a great rest of your day. We will see you in class. Remember, your test is scheduled for early next week. Good luck.